What's up, Buffalo Bills fans? But wow, this video probably will be a little bit about the Bills, but what a shocker. What a shocker last night. Unbelievable ripple effects. When something like that of that magnitude happens, you always feel it throughout the sports world. You just don't feel it for your rooting interest. Obviously, I'm a Bills fan, but when a player like that just retires like that, what's up, Damager? How are you, bro? It's insane. It's just you think of it as a fan, like, hey, this is good for my team. Then you think, damn, imagine if that was my team, how that sucks. And it just you feel for the player. He obviously was conflicted. Um, he's a smart guy. He's got a lot of options. He graduated Stanford with like a degree in engineering. He could draw up plans to build skyscrapers, for Christ's sake. So the guy always had other options regardless of football. He was just really, really good at football. And, his father was an NFL backup, had amazing connections in the NFL. So the kid almost, what's up? How you doing? I hope I say that right. It, it's just crazy. And who's, everybody in this situation wants to blame people, right? They want to blame they want to blame the medical staff in Indy. They want to, get on Colts fans for booing. Imagine as a Bills fan, you're sitting at home or you're sitting in the crowd of the crappy third preseason game. You're hoping nobody gets injured, and all of a sudden you're just seeing your phone blow up with, yeah, Andrew Luck retired, or your starting quarterback retired, and he's standing on the sidelines with the team. Like, imagine the gamut of emotions you're running through. So I understand how them booing looks bad, but still, there's context and there's nuance there. I'm sure it's tough. It's like, hey, we bought into this season. We did this, we did that. Had the Colts known this was a possibility, would they trade the third overall pick to the Jets year before last? I don't think so. um, you go back to 2012, the way the NFL is now, Russell Wilson might be the top overall pick. People don't have an aversion to the short quarterback no more, and he was a Heisman candidate that year at Wisconsin. And he rehabbing. He did play a little loose with his body early in his career, and if I'm gonna blame somebody, I'm gonna oh God, the guy is fine. I'm sure the guy is going to be fine. I'm not worried about Andrew Luck off the field. That man he's set up for life. I'm sure he doesn't even have a smartphone. He's not like, he's the opposite of a Baker Mayfield. He's not on social media worrying about what people say about him. He's a NFL organization's wet dream. He's never going to say the wrong thing. He's an elite talent, as elite talent as they come, or as they came. Um, he's he's the kind of guy like, hey, I'd be happy if my daughter brought that guy home. It goes back to the Seinfeld saying, it's like we only root for laundry. I was just gonna bring him up. If you want to blame somebody, I'm gonna blame. It all starts with the owner. I think, and the media will tiptoe around Jim Irsay. His father, I believe, was it John Irsay, who just basically took the Colts out of. I think it was either Stephen or John. I can't remember what his name exactly was, his first name, but man, the guy literally just up and moved the Colts out of Baltimore overnight. Literally, yeah, Robert. I'm sorry, Robert Ursay. He literally just packed up the trucks and said bye bye overnight. That's before social media and big sports media was around, 1983. So literally everybody's finding out in the morning, maybe with the morning paper, or just, ESPN wasn't the monster. You didn't have Fox. You had none of this. So nobody knew. It's like, hey, they're up and moving to Baltimore. John, to the point where John Elway was like, I don't want to play for this team. I don't want to play for this team. That John Elway himself is like, I don't want to play for this owner. What saved that team and that franchise was Peyton Manning. That's why it's called Lucas Oil Field is called the house Peyton built, because Jim Irsay is a terrible owner. The guy had all that shit going on back with the pills, all those painkillers he was addicted to from his years of powerlifting and steroid abuse and all that other bullshit. He had that situation with that girl that ended up he was a druggie with. He would do drugs with, and she ended up dying somewhere. Like she OD'd, and he was last seen with her. He got pulled over with all the money in his car. So the media is really gonna like skirt around these owners and treat them with kid gloves because they're the money men. They're the guys who secure the bags, pay the freight. You fuck one of those guys over, they will blacklist the fuck out of you. You have to be very careful with. See, I don't have that. I can talk shit about anything and everything I want. That's the beauty of me, is I have no binds that the ties that bind, none whatsoever, and I have no filter. So I think he's not a good person. He's never been a good owner. He was amazingly fortunate to have a shitty season in '97 and got Peyton Manning, the other golden child. And that's, to me, the difference between Peyton. I always felt Peyton Manning loved football. He came from a well-off family. He wasn't the scholar that Andrew Luck is, but that man lived, breathed, and slept football. If I want to say one critique of Andrew Luck, I don't think he loved the game as much as other quarterbacks did. I don't think he loved the game as much. I just don't think he had the dog, if you will. You see the little cut up of him getting hit by all those guys last night. Somebody put it out. It was kind of like a highlight, like a mic'd up, and he's just giving guys giving guys props for hitting them. Hey, he never got up once and like, oh, I ate that shit. What's good? Like he doesn't have that in him. I think he is an uber nice guy who plays the game. Competitive, of course, but you see the quarterbacks that win. They're the dogs that just want to bury you. They want to bury your soul twice over, once removed. They don't give a shit about how you feel, and they're going to let you know it. So I always felt that he never had that, I don't say rich quarterbacks, but he's also very, very smart. And don't think for 1 second NFL teams don't talk about that shit. NFL teams will go over that shit. Like, hey, you don't think the next time one of these type of kids comes out or is available in the draft that's going to be a conversation like, hey, this kid is this kid is that, this kid comes from this kid is uber educated. Does he really love football? Is he all in on football? The second he's faced a ton of adversity. But I go back to Jim Irsay. He empowered Ryan Grigson. Grigson was a disaster as a general manager. The reason a lot of GMs get critiqued is these are public companies. You see everything. It's like going into a business, a restaurant, anything. The menu's trash, service sucks. Oh, this store, never has anything new. There's never nobody here in this department. They're rude when you ask for their help. It's the same thing. It's no different. Oh, the talent's poor, the communication is poor, the message is constantly changing. One day we're doing this, next day we're doing that. It's like the way the Bills were run when under the absentee of Ralph Wilson. Rosen, of course. You don't think they didn't have that, but he played that part. He wasn't like Luck. He wasn't as superiorly talented as Luck. He wasn't the athlete that Luck was. He was the recruit Luck was, but he was as petulant, way more petulant than Luck. I mean, you can go back to Cutler. Cutler, uber educated out of Vanderbilt. Uber educated, crazy arm talent, better athlete than he became because he just wasn't the worker. Good at football, maybe just truly didn't love it. Jeff George had been transferred twice from Illinois. I think he played at another school. Crazy arm talent, got tons of chances in the league, but the guy was an asshole. He was the proverbial QC killer, asshole, played on a million teams because nobody could stand playing with him because he was a complete dick. A complete dick. In sports stories, man, I've seen a lot of shit. I've seen, like the Colts leaving. Like, imagine that. I saw, like, Lynn Bias pretty much die. Boxing stories, I saw Tyson. I remember watching that pay-per-view. I saw Tyson bite Holyfield's ear. I've seen the OJ chase. That was bigger than sports. You can just, man, Magic Johnson with the HIV press conference, which was a stunner. That was like, you could not believe what you're watching. There's just certain stories that transcend sports. Maybe Lux does in a way, but like Derek Thomas dying in a Porsche accident during the 2000 off season. Great pass rusher, in the prime of his career. That's crazy. Tragedy. Like Sean Taylor getting shot at such a young age, just tragic stories. The Ray Caruth story, where he hires the hitman to kill. It just bad. Those are totally different level, but to have seen them and just, it just makes you look back. Barry Sanders retiring, was good at football, never truly loved it, and didn't want to break Jim Brown's record at the behest of his father and himself. He just didn't want to do it. Robert Smith wanted to be a doctor. Really good running back from Ohio State. Battled a lot of injuries early in his career with the Vikings. Kind of like stabilized his career. Started being really good with those, the Randy Moss, Chris Carter teams. Kind of had Cunningham, Moon, Brad Johnson at quarterback going back and forth. Then they got Culpepper, but he just retired. Said, you want to go be a doctor. Worked on ESPN a little bit, I think, and had other interests. So you do see it. I mean, Michael Jordan retiring, unretiring. So I've seen a lot of crazy stories in my life in terms of sports, and this one is just unbelievable for so many reasons. And of course, the selfish sports fans that we are, we think like, especially us in the AFC, think like, damn, how does this helps us? This helps the Bills. This helps the other teams in the AFC South. This helps everybody. That's just how we are. Their own GM and their own head coach said it. We move on. We move forward. And that's the way the game is. The game waits for nobody. I go on Twitter. I don't ever leave Twitter. Whoever does, I just certainly don't. I'm on Twitter. You see the trends in the right-hand side column. And what do you see right below Andrew Luck? Trevor Lawrence. Why do you see Trevor Lawrence? Because there's a number of people saying, hey, they can start tanking for Trevor Lawrence now. That's the way people are wired. On to the next. He's the new golden child. That's the cold reality of it. It's just, there's one guy who's this, and then the next guy turns into be this. It happens, unfortunately. It's like that picture on that was at the Post. Daniel Jones has that really good game, right? In a preseason game, the third one, but he's the new shiny quarterback. And then you have the guy who's the two-time Super Bowl MVP, greatest quarterback in New York sports history, Eli Manning, sitting there at next to him in his locker, and nobody's near him, nobody's talking to him, because that's the way sports is. Cold reality. Chad Kelly. I mean, and there's another guy. I saw his tweet. Doug Gottlieb is one of those guys. He tries to be a firecracker. There's just guys that are just going to put shit out there. There's certain guys who are assholes. There's a lot of sports guys who believe their own bullshit. They'll never say when they're wrong. They're in love with their own opinion. They like hearing themselves talk, and they love seeing themselves tweet. It's like athletes. There's a lot of athletes, because of social media, who think they're better than they are. Back in the day, athletes couldn't get DMs from hot girls. They couldn't get, fucking likes on their pictures. They couldn't get nothing. You had no interaction with the professional athlete or the actor. You had no exposure to them other than what they did on Sunday or what movie they were in. That's all you got. maybe a magazine article that they wrote, but you get people like, I'll give you two examples. There's Andrew Luck. He's not going to do a GQ article. Andrew Luck is one. He was the first overall pick. He didn't win the Heisman, but damn sure was close to it. He's as good as they come. He's won a lot of games, had to take over for a legend in Peyton Manning. So there was a lot of pressure. He had another quarterback that everybody was highly touting right behind him, was drafted right behind him in Robert Griffith III. So there's pressure there. And he handled it and played well and won. Then he got beat up. During the course, he got beat up and his body broke down. But Baker Mayfield hasn't had a winning season, has all the accolades, doesn't have the physical talent that Luck had, but he does the GQ article, says some things. He's a firecracker. He's a social media rabbit ears, replies to everything, goes out of his way to chirp at people, but he hasn't won. You understand? So that's the difference. And organizations they want Baker. They like the attention, but they're also like, There's just certain images organizations love. They love it. The Jets love a Baker Mayfield. They love the brash. They're constantly trying to find, even though Sam Darnold doesn't fit this, they're trying to find that playboy quarterback, that Joe Namath playboy lightning rod quarterback, the fur coat wearing, sashaying quarterback. That's what the Giants are not like that. They're very buttoned down. They want the unassuming company man. Russell Wilson, let's just say they hold that draft tomorrow. They redraft. Russell Wilson would be a top 3 pick, easily, because it was the size. That was the only reason. It wasn't production. It wasn't lack of this or lack of that. It was just merely his size. The only knock was his size. But that whole draft, Gilmore wouldn't have made it to the Bills. Hell no. Kuechly wouldn't have made it to Carolina. Mark Barron got taken ahead of those guys. He was terrible. So Ryan Tannehill, there's just teams, they find the quarterback, or they're lucky enough to be in the right draft to get the one that they want, or they luck into one. Seattle's case, they lucked into one, and it's crazy. I look at the Indianapolis Colts quarterback history is insane. It's insane. They had Unitas for a long time. Was amazing. An amazing quarterback for them. And, he was considered the gold standard for many years. Even when I started watching football, that was the legendary name you heard was Johnny Unitas. That was the name. You heard, guys like Y.A. Tittle, who had played with New York. You heard Fran Tarkington. Lynn Dawson, you heard about those names. Now, maybe the younger generation, since they didn't see him play, hear about Montana. You hear about Elway. You hear about the guys you didn't see. The new generation is going to start hearing about Favre and Manning and those type of guys. And then the following generation will hear about Brady because of his longevity. It's like EJ. It's unpredictable, but it is predictable. There's sometimes you just know how good guys are. Everybody knew how good Andrew Luck was going to be 2 years before he was drafted. It's like Trevor Lawrence now. Guys that are going to be great, about them 2 years before they get drafted because they're so good, so young. You just hope they don't get injured and things don't transpire where it diminishes them. But you see that kid play and you see his arm. He's got this crazy different look with the hair, crazy deep voice. It just, he screams, I'm the next guy. But this was insane yesterday. It definitely opens a big window for the rest of the AFC. To digress a little bit, benefits the Bills. As cold as that sounds, it benefits the rest of the teams in the AFC because that's the league. When they start playing games on the ninth, they're not going to sit there. Each team's not going to roll out a pity party parade for Andrew Luck's retirement. No, they're not going to do that. The Colts might be doing that, and I don't think they're in as bad a situation as obviously they're going to. Losing Andrew Luck is a huge blow. That's a huge blow. That's massive, but that's a good team. That is a good team. They've got a ton of good players. They've got a great offensive line. They have a good defense. They have a pretty damn good play caller head coach. They have a good GM who made some sage trades, and they've got 2 second-round picks next year. Who knows? You know, it's insane. You know, there's that too with Miller goes down last night, first carry of the preseason, tears his ACL. But in terms of this, I'll just stick to luck and sports stories. Yeah, you draft a quarterback, and now the way quarterbacks are different. What's up, man? How you doing, Los? Happy Sunday, man. The way quarterbacks are now compared to the way they were in the decades. People like to compare quarterbacks. So that's why I'm going to start doing videos about quarterbacks, because I find the position is fascinating, and what we consider good, bad, and indifferent is amazing. It's amazing. There's a famous picture of Lynn Dawson. Lynn Dawson, halftime of a Super Bowl. I believe it's like Super Bowl 2 or 3. Might be Super Bowl 2. He's in the locker room smoking a cigarette with a beer at his feet. That's football back in the day, pre-merger football. Now, these guys are in a bunker. You don't see shit. The media is not in there. There's nobody snapping pictures. Maybe a team photographer, if that. But they're working on adjustments. They're working on all type. There's none of that. So it was a different world. The way the game was played, the way these guys are now in the offseason. Guys used to work full time. Some of these guys worked jobs in the offseason. They couldn't live. They couldn't live off of what they made in the NFL. It didn't pay like that for most guys. There was other guys they could. Inflation and stuff, obviously, but making $500K back then was the equivalent of making like $5 million a year now, because your dollar went way further. Now it's just, you see all these numbers flying around. Yeah, society is different. The level of information that gets exchanged is different. The way guys prepare is different. The size of the players is different. There was offensive guards that were the same size as some of the running backs. Okay, Jim Brown was unique because there was offensive guards and linemen that he was bigger than. Cookie Gilchrist was bigger than some of his offensive linemen. So that's what made them unique. The game didn't have all these archetypes. You go back in the day, there became this archetype of quarterback size and stuff. Johnny Unitas was 6'1". He was not 6'3", 6'4". There wasn't this archetype. Lynn Dawson was 6 foot. Fran Tarkington was 5'10 and a half, 5'11", who scrambled around. He wasn't there. Then all of a sudden, there became, oh, you have to have this model. It kind of started with Roman Gabriel with the Rams. 6'5", statuesque, could see over the line, the big hands, all the bullshit, all the cliches we hear. Then it went on to a guy like Roger Staubach. Quarterbacks, and they took hits. They took hits. I mean, it was the way you took hits. They figured you were built better. You also appeared bigger, so you commanded more attention. You were more of a sign of strength. There was just a lot of things to it. I remember, like Dan McGuire, Mark McGuire's brother. He was 6'8". He was horrifically bad. He was terrible. But he got picked in the first round because he was big and he was tall. Well, I don't question that they are goats. They are goats for their time. I can only compare them for their time. So I can't knock them because they can't get in a time machine and come play now. Just as if guys can't go play back then. Because what if guys had to go play back then and the receivers could get hit and crushed over the middle like they could then, like they can't now? Because when you went over the middle back in the day, you were going to get fucked up. That's why Bills wide receiver Andre Reed was so respected, because when he went over the middle, he took some fucking shots. That's why he was muscular. He would build himself. He was very astute about his body because of the amount of punishment he took over the middle, because that's where he made a lot of his living. It you didn't have that. You go look at some of the Jack Tatum hits for the Raiders, some of the things the Steelers would do. It was insane. That's where that whole era was. Those 85, 86 Bears teams, insane. This the Doug Plank, all the stuff that they used to do. The Washington defenses throughout the 80s, they were oof. You could hit, and that's another thing about quarterbacks. Quarterbacks now, they don't have to worry. Quarterbacks now don't have to worry about guys hitting their legs. Back in the day, there was quarterbacks who would just throw arm. Dan Marino said it. I would throw arm. Wouldn't step into some of my throws because I was afraid about getting hit at my knees. I knew if I stepped up in the pocket, I was going to get hit below the knees. So there's times I just had to get it out of there. That's why my release was so quick, and it just ended up working for me. And that's why I had to work on my footwork, because he was slow as shit. That guy was unathletic as it got. He was just crazy talented, arm talent. Jim Kelly was a little better athlete than him, and he wasn't the greatest athlete. But that's what I mean, is there's so much more of a machine with the NFL now, is the size, the around the clock training, the around the clock ability to, like, you couldn't, in the back in the day, you couldn't go watch film on your phone. You watched 8mm film in the facility and then you left. You went home and you lived your life. So comparing the game now to the game then, completely different. You can't say it's better now than it was then, because that's just how they were living. Like 20 years from now, people are going to look back at what was going on here and be like, that's arcane. That's yesteryear. Shit, 5 years from now. That's how fast things move. Yeah, and they used to play that. Remember they used to play that on the run up? They used to play BB getting flipped over on his head and landing on his head in the AFC, it was the divisional playoff game. BB lands on his head and the ball pops out, but they played that on the run up for the CBS games. But then all the concussion stuff happened and all that stuff, and then they were like, no, we got to get that out of there. Just like ESPN getting rid of the jacked up, like, oh, too insensitive. That's another thing I'm conflicted about with the NFL, is they're hypocrites. They're hypocrites. They want to sell violence, but they don't want violent repercussions. You can't have it. Andrew Luck is a byproduct of that. You want to sell collision, violent alpha male sports, but you want bubble wrap repercussions. No, it doesn't work like that. When I watched boxing when I was a kid, and I used to sit down and watch Mike Tyson, the reason I sat down and watched Mike Tyson was not for his boxing prowess. Mike Tyson was not a great boxer. He was a great highlight reel because he could take a guy's head off. That's why I watched him. I watched him to see if he would separate, how fast and how violently he could separate another man from his consciousness. That's it. Point blank. Point blank. Why do people not like Floyd Mayweather? That's not his style. He's a technical boxer who was not going to do that shit. And he's very brash and different guy. They don't like that stuff. But that's it. You can't sell blood. You can't sell boxing without blood. You can't sell the NFL without injuries. Injuries are going to happen. And Andrew Luck was a little reckless with the way he played early on, young, dumb, full of you-know-what. And his body took a toll. The organization he was playing for did not build around him at all. The best player that was drafted at any time Was T.Y. Hilton with him? Who else? They were terrible at picking. They trade their GM traded a first round pick for Trent Richardson, for Christ's sake. Trent Richardson. Bjorn Warner never did a thing. They had T.Y. Hilton. They brought in Philip Dorsett, who got traded for nothing to the New England Patriots a few years ago. This shit organization with a terrible owner. The guy looked like he was high last night when they were doing the press conference. He was sitting there just, and again, people have to tip. These are the people that write the checks. These are the billionaires. Their money is fail-safe money. The NFL will never lose money. It's a fail-safe business. That's why big corporations buy into the NFL. They buy into sports. Look at European soccer. That's what the NBA is doing. The NBA goes. So you think the NBA is leading some vanguard? No, they're not. All they've done is take what European soccer has done and put it in the NBA with all the different shit, the advertising on the jerseys. Now they want to start the in-season tournament separate from the NBA championship, like what they do in soccer, like with the FA Cup and the they do like the Copa del Rey in La Liga. They do that different shit. That's all they want to do. And they don't care. They don't care because their advertising dollars are paid for, and sponsored by the second they buy the airtime. The second the NFL buys the airtime from the network, they know they're going to have 1 trillion people wanting there because they know every one of us is watching it. The internet, it's just like the internet. It's a big fucking ad. Spend money. Give us your money. Look at YouTube. They've monetized it. I don't monetize this channel. I don't want money. I don't want your guys' money. The second I do that, don't watch me no more. Okay? Don't watch me. I'll never ever do that. That's ridiculous. You know, it's like my Instagram. I bullshit about sports on my Instagram. I'm no public figure. I'm not somebody. I'm not a celebrity. That's the next thing about this phone. I'm sorry you're going off on a tangent. It's like, imagine being an NFL player. You are a celebrity. You have this. It's even more jacked up. You got regular motherfuckers that think they're celebrities now. I got an Instagram. I got a Twitter. I'm a celebrity. People don't want, like, I consider everybody who comes in here my friend, and I have an authentic, genuine relationship with. You could tell me, Mark, hey, you're wrong about this. I'm not going to take it personal. I'm not going to block your tweet or your post or your comment. You know, that if I decide to come on here and put myself out there, I'm going to deal with the repercussions of it, because that's the way it is. I should have no shield from that. There's a lot of people, they think that they can do this, this, and this, and they're somehow, it's a fan base. These aren't my friends. This is my fan base. My followers are my fan base. Nah, that's fake, phony, and fraud. I want no part of that shit. I want no part of it. Sorry about that tangent. But Andrew Luck was similar to that. He doesn't care about a fan base. He didn't need a fan base. He didn't need to be loved. He didn't need likes. He didn't need followers. You know, and in that way, that was really, really good. But it's unfortunate that he had to suffer from such a bad surrounding situation. And only until the last year did he have an ideal situation for any quarterback. And that's what makes me think about Josh Allen, that a lot of organizations are going to start to look at what happened with the Colts and be like, hey, this is how we have to handle our starting quarterback. We have to build, as we can't take him for granted no more. It's no longer, you know, that whole thing up, just get the quarterback right and everything's going to take care of itself. No fucking way. Look at what Green Bay's going through with Aaron Rodgers. Man, I respect that you say that, bro. I just love football. There's a book over there. See, that's Total Football book. I used to go, it's old. It was published in 97, but it started being written in 97. I think it started, I think they actually were able to put the stats in for the end of that year. But I used to go to Barnes and Noble and read that book till my eyes bled. And I used to take like steno pads, like notepads and stuff, and just and read. It was just total history of the NFL, everything, every stat, every player, every coach, everything that was pertinent to the league till that time period. But the book was expensive for the time. I was a kid. I didn't really work. I worked bullshit jobs, whatever. But long story short, I remember I wanted that book so bad. And I used to always go to Barnes & Noble and write shit out of that book, take notes, everything. And for my 17th birthday, I remember I came into my room when I was up from Florida, and the book was in my room. My mother had bought it for me. And I was like, wow. Like, I was so happy I was like, she didn't see me. There was no internet, no nothing. I didn't have a computer. And boy, I read that book cover to cover so many times. So I love the sport. I love the history of the sport. Like, I look at the sport, most of the league was built on prohibition money. It was built on bootlegger money from back in the 20s and 30s when alcohol was illegal and became illegal, because that's the way a lot of the people that were on the lower end of the spectrum economically came up. They worked regular jobs, but they were able to become or they had other businesses and they just used bootlegging to further supplement money that they were losing because of the depression. It's not work if you love it. I love sports. I love talking to you guys about sports. I love talking to you guys, and I don't want money for that. I don't want money. You know what I want money for? I want money to buy good food for my family. That's what I want money for. I want money to make them happy. This makes me happy. Sports makes me happy. Like when I go to the gym, that makes me happy. I don't want a fucking a pat on the back for it. It's like people who follow me on Instagram. I'll show myself at the gym, right? And you know what I'll do? I'll also show posts of myself like eating like my junky meals, and then I'll show like, hey, I'm still in shape and I'm semi ripped. But you know what? I also read. There's a reason I do that. You know why I do it? Because everything on Instagram you see from those fake ass fucking fitness people, they're frauds. I'm 41 years old. I'm not on TRT. I don't go to rejuvenation clinic. I don't claim to be a genetic freak like a lot of these people do. Like, hey, I'm in the gym 24/7, just getting ripped and shredded, and look how I look, and hey, I can eat a stack of pancakes this big. What they don't tell you is all the shit that they're injecting into themselves, right? They don't show you their candy box. They don't show you that shit. They don't show you their goodie bag because they carry their goodie bag around. They don't tell you that stuff. There's a lot of lies out there, a lot of bullshit, and I don't like that. I don't like people lying to people. And you know why they lie to you? To get your money. They lie to you to get your money. They lie to you to try to get your money. Hey, and what do they have? They have little hyperlinks and all this stuff. Hey, click my sponsor ad, click my sponsor code, buy my workout program, all that bullshit. But see, go back to Andrew Luck. He wants none of that. He's not sponsored by anybody, or he doesn't really endorse anything. A crazy different athlete. Unlike Peyton Manning, similar type of prospect. Sponsored, was a face, was really good speaker. Eli Manning, you would think he was the most docile, but when he got in front of a camera, he was pretty funny. He could show some of his personality. No nudes, KB, none of that stuff. But so he was just a way different character than most quarterbacks that were in his position would ever be, from a mentality standpoint. And again, just a tremendously smart, intelligent guy. It's very hard to be able to draw up schematics and blueprints to build things and assay land and tensile strength and rebar, the amount, the hundreds of square feet that were required. It's insane. It's insane. You have to have a crazy knowledge of math and measure. It's just insane to be able to do what he did. Yeah, I brought him up, Los. He was a doctor. The guy wanted to be a doctor. He injuries, but remember he stabilized his career. Then all of a sudden he stepped away because he was always thinking about being a doctor. But then again, I cited other examples, more so guys getting taken. Dennis Byrd was a great player. He was a really good player, Pro Bowl player. He got injured, similar to Kevin Everett, could never play again. Mike Utley with the Lions, offensive lineman, hurt his neck, couldn't play again, stretchered off the field. So I respect athletes in that way. Like, I don't shit talk athletes. I'll critique performance, but I won't get on social media and troll, and I don't endorse that because I do realize when you watch an athlete perform, even though we tend to think like, hey, they're being tremendously compensated financially for their services. So yes, they're going to get critiqued, and the media is going to do it way more so now than ever, and they're going to get it. And we think that, okay, now that's bought and paid for us to talk shit on them. But I also have seen so many times where that's it. It's over. It's done. One hit, boom. Kevin Everett, done. Reggie Brown, linebacker for the Lions, tackle against the Jets in '97, done. Simple tackle, probably made it a million times. Like, he destroyed his vertebrae. I'm a wrestling fan, right? I'll always say I'm a huge wrestling fan. I won't lie about that, say, oh, it's fake, it's bullshit. I even think about that with wrestling too, when they do all that crazy shit. It was Continental Airlines Arena at the time, but now before it was Brendan Byrne, the Izod Center. Now it's closed. They don't use it for anything here in New Jersey. I was there when Stone Cold got pile drive by Owen Hart. I did not realize I was pretty much watching the end of his career. But you knew when you were there that something wrong had happened. You knew it. So when you watch an athlete like Luck just take those accumulative hits and hits and hits, I think it's just more of an accumulation. The shoulder, the spleen. Remember that spleen hit against Denver? It looked so bad when he got cracked. He just got destroyed, spun around like a top. And to hit a man that big and make him spin, that's wow. And he played through a lot of shit. Draws got by D'Lo Brown. He got the I think it was the attitude adjustment or something, or the D'Lo, the bomb or something. It was basically like a jackknife power bomb. He broke his neck and is paralyzed. Yeah, that's a good example, Damager. Darren Drozdov. I think he might have played in the NFL too a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. But there was shit. I don't know how old you guys are, so I can go back in history and talk about guys. You guys have all seen the Goonies, right? You guys have all seen the Goonies? Yeah, because you know what? Walking is first and foremost. Like, for me, I think about walking. I think about, like, these guys think about walking. So if you see, we're the same age, dude. It's 41. Remember Sloth? The guy that looked all fucked up. He looked all fucked up. He was in the basement with Chunk, and then he ended up being his sidekick and helping him out and stuff. They kept him chained up in the basement. Remember that guy from that movie? There was a guy that was really behind the mask in that movie. His name was John Matuzak, and he played in the NFL. He was in the NFL he played for the Raiders. He was a defensive lineman, and he was fucking big. The guy was like literally like 6'7", big guy. And he did a lot of things because, again, he was good at football, but football didn't pay him the amount of money he wanted to. He started acting. He was in a really famous football movie called The North Dallas 40. And if you go watch The North Dallas 40, that movie was released in 1981. Everything that happens in the NFL now is pertinent in that movie. They have analytics. They have computers. The coach tells the whole team, Nick Nolte and everybody, no one of you is as good as that computer. That's why the computer tells us the printouts of the game plans. It tells us tendencies. What is he talking about? Analytics. Nick Nolte gets suspended, kicked off the team for smoking weed. Nothing's changed. Everybody thinks shit's changed and shit. No, it doesn't change. People just don't remember anything anymore. They don't remember what happened 5 minutes ago because the news cycle goes like this. It's so fast. I could go watch the movie and you'll see it and you'll be like this. They kicked Nick Nolte off the team because he's fucking one of the owners' soon to be wife. And they use weed as an excuse. But the use of painkillers, how the team is giving them just opiates, tons of opiates. They're shooting up here. Nick is like taking shots in his knee. He's all fucked up. And there's a big tragic injury. Like they low block, they cut block a guy. They cut block a guy in the movie, right? And they hurt his knee on purpose. And it's just like on to the next, on to the next. The running back for the team tears his pulls his hamstring, but he has to play in this big game. They shoot him up. He goes out there and totally rips it up. And they're just like, get him out of here. And they put in the new guy. And they just go on. It's that cold. And that movie, 1981. And that's when they weren't getting the money, getting paid and getting all, and they did different things. Bruiser Brody, who was a famous wrestler who was killed in Puerto Rico, he was in the NFL. He played in the NFL and found more money in wrestling. When will they start investing more in the O-lines? When they allow O-linemen to play like O-linemen in practice, because these guys can't play like they need to play in practice anymore. But with that comes a little bit of risk. You're going to have to let them put pads on and have contact. That's the only way it's going to work. And again, I started watching a league that was 28 teams. We're now at 32. You're still pulling the talent from the same source. There's no other sources. There's no developmental league. There's no minor league. There's nothing. There's not another level in between the collegiate level to help get these guys better. There's none of that. So anytime you create a scarcity at a position like that, and you look at the offensive line position, it's where you carry a lot of numbers. Secondary and offensive line, you carry 8-9 linemen. You carry 10. You carry that many guys. And if you're only getting the talent from one place, that's only supplied it for the whole life cycle of the NFL, but you're continually adding teams, you're gonna hit a period where it's like, okay, there's not enough supply for the demand. It's like quarterbacks. There's not enough supply for the demand. There's just not. I wouldn't want to keep my son or I understand totally. I wouldn't want to keep my son or daughter from doing anything. It's like my grandmother. I'm sorry to give you guys this big history lesson about me and get all wax poetic about things. It's like my grandmother took me to the boxing gym when I was 9 years old, right? I didn't have any man in the house. My father, well, sperm donor as I call him, was absentee. He was never around. And she took me to the boxing gym because I love the Rocky movies. I always watched the boxing events with her. She was like that crazy lady who watched, it wasn't called pay-per-view back then. It was called closed circuit TV. And the cable company would come and put this thing in your house and you would get the event. And it was always boxing. She watched tons of Olympic boxing. Sugar Ray Leonard was her favorite boxer. And she took me to the boxing gym. And I didn't realize how crazy this gym was. I didn't know I was what I was, I was just a kid. She took me to Reuben Hurricane Carter had trained out of this gym when he was still inactive before he went to jail in Passaic, New Jersey. And she took me there and I was like, oh, I'm a kid. So I go in there and I was scared. I was scared. It was ghetto as shit. I kind of lived in the ghetto, but I'd never seen as ghetto as that. There was people of all different ages, mostly Black and Hispanic kids, rough project kids, And she was like, you know what? I can't teach you how to be a man. I don't know how to do that. She's like, you need to come here and learn. You know, you want to box, you like Rocky, the training is tough. You have to go do it yourself. And I was like, I don't want to stay here. I want to go home with you. She's like, just try it, see if you like it. And yeah, it's a 3-year, 2-year career, bro. That's it. It's a very short life cycle. Um, it's hard to pay guys in such a high level. It's like you pay a guy, you guarantee his money. I believe that they should get their guaranteed money, and then you just pay the life cycle. Like they're similar to the way they do it now. But the owners, again, the owners own. The owners are always going to get the bigger piece of the pie. That's the way it works. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality. It's like the jobs we all work at. Are we making more than the owner? There's a lot of media who want to be player friendly, and they'll pretend to be pro player and push the message of the player to. They have a self-serving agenda. They want to continue to have that player as a source, their agent as a source. Their agents pay these people to push their message. So it's a revolving door of back scratching. It's like, hey, tell me this and I'll tell you this further down the line. Player will feed you said information. Hey, what goes on here, what goes on there. So there's a lot of subversive from within bullshit. That's why Belichick is so abrupt and so cold with the media, because he knows how self-serving they are and how they'll take anything, spin it around to meet their own needs and fit their narrative or whatever, whoever's master they're serving, whether it's a network, an agent, or both. That's it. But yeah, I went to the boxing gym and I got my ass whipped. That's all I did. I just got beat up all the time. And eventually, like, I stopped getting ass whippings and started, semi giving them a little bit. But it took time and I was scared. And there's not a lot of ghettos anymore. And I'm not saying they are good or bad, but then it was the other situation. When my aunt moved to Jersey City and I wanted to come visit her, I came to the boxing gyms here. It's the first place I wanted to go. All of a sudden I fell in love with it. Shit. Ringside, place where Mike Tyson's pigeon coop is right on top of. Rocky Marciano's, who was owned, it was called Marciano's, then Andrew Golota bought it. Then he sold it to Thomas Adamek, who were both Polish boxers, but they had, over there, had to walk down his nasty ass fucking ghettos, dude. Crack whores, dirty ass no-tell motels where people cheat or bring prostitutes, craziness. But it's where I grew up and it's what I had to see, and it was just the norm for me. I'm not special for it. I'm not better for it, and not any tougher for it. I've seen a lot of pussies in the ghetto. Trust me. I've seen a lot of kids talking shit, running down the block backwards, telling you how many people they were going to come bring to beat you up. But yeah, man. And Andrew Luck, yeah, you went outside too. You went outside. Yep. And that was another thing too. It kept me safe. A lot of times it kept me safe outside, because I would see kids that didn't know how to fend for themselves outside or in school. They got taken advantage of, man. Kids are hunters. They're hunter-gatherers. They gather in packs and they hunt in packs. And they find that weak kid and he's going to get it, and he's going to get it, and he's going to get it. You all know, we've all been that age. Kids are ruthless. They're relentless. And these kids nowadays especially are pussies, and they don't got the backbones to handle it. But I can relate it back to Andrew Luck. He's never had to deal with those adversities and those, you know what I mean? He's not that kid. And you have to be a strong motherfucker to come from dirt and be able to rise to the top and stay there and be clean, not want to go back to the hood and help, like Ray Lewis almost did. Ray Lewis almost fucked his whole life up, trying to go back to the hood and help everybody and hang out with the boys and turn up and blah, 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 blah. And then, damn, somebody's dead. Now you're on trial for your fucking life. Look at Ed Reed. Ed Reed came from a shithole in New Orleans, a fucking dirty ghetto, and he rose up and he stayed on the top and became, you know, and dude, and Muslims, man. I was in Patterson. I was in Patterson, New Jersey for a long time. There's a ton of Muslims there. There's always been, and I grew up with a very diverse surrounding. I grew up with black kids. I grew up with Muslim kids, Indian kids, Puerto Rican kids, Dominican kids, you name it. And I was the Russian Puerto Rican kid, but I looked white. And then when I moved to Florida, yeah, they die trying to help people out because you can't do that. You can't. Sometimes it's unfortunate to say it like this. The shit's in the toilet for a reason. You know what I mean? The shit's in the toilet for a reason. The dump stays at the dump. It's sad. But I knew a lot of kids like that. They weren't only comfortable in the hood. Like they couldn't get out of their own shell. They felt nervous around people that they felt were better than them, had more money than them, and they would freak out and they want to go back to the projects or to the neighborhoods, the corners that they were used to chilling at. You know, and luck, you know, and this is not a I say a critique of him. People think it's not his choice where he was born, but when shit gets tough, you got to have the balls to be like, hey, and I'm not saying he hasn't because the man's taken a beating, but to suffer like that and to be down dirty and broke and see your mom working multiple jobs, no father in the house, and to be like, hey, mom went to work every day and she never quit. I'm not going to quit either. So there's that tear for me where I come from. You know, so that's why I'm like, I respect his decision, understand it. I can imagine how tough it is. The man was in tears, but I also respect the hard work and mothers and the parents that have to grind every day so their kid can wear the NFL jersey or they can have those Jordan sneakers so they can look fresh in front of their friends and get the crazy haircuts that cost a little more because they know how important it is and it makes them feel good to see their kids have shit. It's hard. You do shit you don't want to do, you know? So, and you guys are the fans of the NFL. We're the fans of the NFL. Ultimately, we pay the way. We buy the subscriptions. We pay for the streams. We buy the merchandise. We feed the machine. So I understand it. You know what I mean? I understand both sides of the argument. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, again, it's an NFL event. It's in real time. They're on their phone. They're on their phone, right? And in you imagine, dude, just imagine Josh Allen retired at halftime. You know, it just he retires. What's up, John? How you doing, bro? It just retires. It's a raw reaction. I get the criticism, and everybody went to a little too crazy on the criticism, but I understand it's like you can't lump all Colts fans into that bucket. You can't look at all the people that are more on the liberal side of things, the left wing side of things that critique Bills fans for booing Kaepernick when Kaepernick came to Buffalo in 2016. Everybody got on Bills fans for the way they treated him in Buffalo. You know, I understand, right? When you're an athlete, you have to accept the responsibility of when I get up on this stage, people are going to embrace or reject. That's it. It's like me. I get on this stage. A lot of people aren't comfortable in front of a camera, in front of talking. The rest of my family, they would puke in front of a camera. They're horrified. They're not like me in that way. My family was very quiet and insulated. It was all women. There was no men. It was only me. It was my grandmother, two older aunts, her siblings, and my grandmother's daughters, four of them. That's it. Just me. Yeah. And so how I came out of that shell, I don't know because I was kind of an introverted kid, but grow up, you know, I just had to. Yeah, he was. He was elite, and it's crazy when an elite talent goes away. Yeah, I don't like. I like it. I enjoy it because I don't have a social life. I don't go to bars. I don't drink. This is my social life. You guys and the gym. He did have T.Y. Hilton, and that's the crazy part. That's all he had. He had T.Y. Hilton till last year. He had Eric Ebron, and but he never had the line. I know this guy had some pretty damn good offensive lines. He had Adam Meadows, he had Tarek Glenn, he had Jeff Saturday. He had some pretty damn good offensive lines. Dallas Clark, Edgerrin James. Shit, they had just traded away Marshall Faulk. Imagine that. And Lois, think about it. In 2002, up until 2002, the Bills had both Tom Brady and Peyton Manning in the division. They created the AFC South and they moved because the Texans came in. You know, it's rare, John. We're rare characters, bro. But it's insane. But I think about it, this retirement in the shocker sense, like when you hear about Derek Thomas dying, an elite pass rusher who just had a big season, dying in a Porsche accident. That's like, oh my God, that's a shock. That's unbelievable. You know, yeah, that's like you never know like what happens until yeah, dude. It's rare for the non-alcoholics club. I'll give you an example in boxing. I don't know if you guys remember Vladimir Klitschko's brother, Vitaly Klitschko, right? I'll give you a similar analogy to boxing with luck. Everybody, you don't know what they're going through. Everybody wants to criticize them. Hey, pussy, man up, go play, right? Vitaly was the heavyweight champion. He gave he fought Lennox Lewis in his last fight. Lewis won because he cut Vitaly Klitschko really bad. They had to stop the fight, but Klitschko was winning. Anyway, long story short, several years before that, Klitschko was fighting a guy named Chris Bird, who was a small ass, jacked up. He was really a light heavyweight fighting at heavyweight, but the heavyweight division was lean. Tyson's a basket case at this point. You never know if he's coming or going. He's pretty much cooked. Um, there's a lot of Russians coming to the sport. None of them speak good English. Lewis is kind of at the end. He's still fighting guys like Hasim Rahman, who knocked him out, but he came back and won. But anyway, Klitschko's beating the shit out of this guy. This much smaller man, he's dominating him. Bird is just fast, got no punching power. He has no chance to win. Klitschko hurts his shoulder, right? He he tore his rotator cuff in his labrum somehow, some way in the fight. He's winning the fight. All he's got to do is fight another round. I think it was like in the 10th round, so there's 2 more rounds. All he's got to do is go out there and just move. He doesn't have to do anything else. He quits in the corner. He's like, I can't go out there. That guy got the soft European label from every boxing fan, every boxing purist, all the writers, all the guys who were respected. They ripped him to shreds for being a pussy and a quitter. They destroyed him. He came back. He beat Bird. It took him a long time. It took him a long time to wash clean of that. But we truly never know what the guy's going through until we go in there and go through it. I think that's why boxers like Gotti were so respected. It's like even in losses, you saw the beating the guy would take. It was like, Jesus Christ, this guy's getting fucking mauled. And he would either come back and win or he would get knocked out. But either way, he was gonna go out or go on and win. So, yeah, man. But to get hit on in an NFL setting, it's pretty, it's a violent sport, man. It's a violent sport. I just get mad at the NFL for this is what they sell. All right, bro. Have a good one, man. Sorry to talk everybody's ear off. I'm probably going to wrap this up soon anyway, but I appreciate everybody who came in. But that's why I just get mad at the NFL. This is the repercussions of the game that they sell. This is the collateral damage. It's very unfortunate. But I blame the owner. I blame the former GM. And it's You know, it's just like a career left unfulfilled, you know? It's like there was so much more meat on that bone, but nobody gets to see it, taste it. It's just, that's how it feels. It feels empty. It feels empty. And I feel bad for him. Yeah, they do. They count a lot, man. Yeah, Tyson's story is crazy. You know, it is crazy, but it's and money, ego, you know, and Luck, CC Luck didn't come from that neighborhood. He didn't have a crack. Didn't see that was just what I was talking about. Caracas, like Tyson came from a different world. Tyson may as well came from another planet than Andrew Luck. Tyson didn't go to a prep school. Tyson went to the boys' home. Tyson went to the youth house. Youth house back in the day where, you'd wake up with a kid slapping his dick on your forehead. Go or I know kids that went to the youth house and they did get fucking raped there. Sometimes by the kids that the fucking trustees, the bigger kids that the orderlies would put in charge to watch them because they were trusted, or sometimes by people that even worked there, and how fucked up they came out and how desensitized they were. That's where Mike Tyson came from. A crack addicted mother, a father that who knew who his father was, sisters from different mothers, going out and being abused and being called dirty. Bedford Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. I mean, you live in New York, bro. That shit is ugly. I live close to Newark, New Jersey. It was like the murder capital of the United States for I don't know how many years in a row. There's places cops don't go. They won't go there. They'll send the ambulance to the corner. They ain't going there. The cops will not go there. If they hear about a shooting or something, they're not going there. Nah, dude, I ended up over there a few times. It's stupid of me. I hope so, John. I hope they're building a good culture. Because I was just ripping on the Colts culture in terms of their owner, because I think he's a terrible owner. And I'm glad that the Pegulas saw the error of their ways and got the wild animals like Russ Brandon and all the making it up as you go along bullshit that was going on there for so long, because that's what was happening for so long with the Bills. They were just making it up as they went along. Rex was the epitome of making it up as he went along. Whatever Rex was feeling that day in the building, that's what the Bills are doing. Same thing with Russ Brandon, because there was no direction. You know what? I don't know if this works or fails, this whole thing with McDermott and Bean and Josh Allen. But you know what? I'll give them respect and credit because they had a plan. They stuck to the plan, both short, mid-range, and long view. And we'll just see how it comes to fruition. But they set out to fix the cap. They did it. They set out to get a franchise quarterback or who they felt to be one. They did it. They put the organization in a good place. They stabilized it. They did that. So I give them credit for that. Things that were not done in the past, and they had the intestinal fortitude and the patience and wherewithal to do it. They did it. And they broke the drought in the process. So got to give them respect for that. People want to criticize them and critique them and say that they should be on a hot seat are fucking insane. Fucking insane. See, they don't remember nothing. You want to go back to Dick Duran? You want to go back to those days? You want to go back to Mike Mularkey walking out the door? Mike fucking Mularkey saying, "No Bills, no thanks. I don't want to work here no more." Or how about guys like Brian Schottenheimer? Brian Schottenheimer, arguably one of the worst offensive coordinators in the NFL. The only reason Brian Schottenheimer has a job in the NFL, do you want to know why his last name is Schottenheimer? The NFL, it doesn't stand for national to me. It's the Nepotism Football League. That's what it is. It truly is the Nepotism Football League. There's some people who love him. There's some people who hate him. There's certain Bills fans that think that because he's Jim's nephew that he's great. Chad Kelly's a prime example. If his last name is anything other than Kelly, and his uncle isn't Jim, That kid is not in this league. He's not drafted because he's got first-round arm talent and he's got undraftable character. And the kid has been nothing but a knucklehead his whole life, and he's had nothing but enablers from Uncle Jim's friends to the guys he played with, his brother. That kid's been nothing but a fucking catastrophe. All the way back at Clemson, he got kicked out. And the kid gets chances because of his last name, because of who his uncle is. No other reason. But Brian Schottenheimer said, I don't want to interview with you. He told the Bills that in 2009. He's like, I don't want to interview with you. Are you crazy? They hired Chan Gailey. 2010, I'm sorry. I try to remind Bills fans that. So you want to try to run this guy if they only have a 7-9, 8-8 season, but you don't remember where this team was. Remember where this team was, okay, in this organization. See, that's a different story, John. If that comes to fruition and things fail in that way, it depends on how they rebound from that. I don't know. I don't want to think that far. I just want to enjoy the season and watch it play out. Of course, I don't think it'll turn out good for them. All right, bro. Peace. You don't have to explain yourselves when you guys want to leave. If you guys want to dip off, always. This is your time as much as it is mine. If you guys want to stay and listen to me bullshit, I'll stay in bullshit. But if you guys need to go live your life, do your things, I don't take it personal, man. You don't need to explain yourself to me. I appreciate you coming in and spending any amount of time, whether you just click in and click out, or if you stay the whole time. You guys got lives to live, and a lot of it has nothing to do with me. So, all right, guys, I'm going to jump off here because I'm going to start getting ready to go on about my day. I really appreciate every single one of you who came in here and spent your time. I really do appreciate it. It's always humbling every time I do it, whether it's one person or I've gotten as many as 30 one time during the season, which was a lot of people. It's a lot of pressure to try to keep 30 people entertained or somewhat engaged. I should say engaged, not entertained. Thank you, bro. Patrick, K Beats, Hussein, Eric, Los, Damager, everybody who comes in here, even Corey when he comes in here, he's cool. Utz, all Rick, all the guys who spend their time in here. Trevor, I should probably make some moderators, but we don't get trolls in here, so I don't really have to worry about that. We don't get trolls. People leave us alone. All right, guys, have a great Sunday. Enjoy it. Go do your thing, and talk to you again soon. Go Bills. And got to feel for some Colts fans and Andrew Luck. It's a sucky situation. All right, peace, guys.